It's a beautiful spring day here in Vancouver, and today I have on my mind the latest tariffs that President Trump has placed on automobile manufacturers. These tariffs come into effect on April 3rd. From what I understand, they include quite a bit. Basically, any imports into the United States from international automakers will be affected, and it also includes parts. So basically, any part of a car that was not produced in the United States is going to be tariffed at 25% surcharge starting April 3rd. So as that's coming up fairly quickly, it's important for us to understand just what an effect this has on Canada. In fact, it has a great effect on our economy and every aspect of business in Canada. Stock markets already have shown a downturn of a few percentage points, which is never good. More than that, it's going to cost you more money to buy a car. It's going to cost jobs in the auto sector, which is a big part of the Canadian economy. And here's some of the details that I know about it for sure. First of all, millions of cars are produced in Canada every year, where they're assembled here or parts of them are made or assembled here. The car parts and vehicle manufacturing process includes going back and forth between the two countries, Canada and the United States, quite a few times. In fact, a vehicle can go back and forth up to 8 times before it's actually sold to the end consumer. Now, this tariff that's taking place April 3rd, it will include all manufacturers that import into the United States. So for Canada, that means Ford, Stellantis, a breach of other companies as well. It's interesting to note that it's estimated right now that these tariffs will cost jobs on both sides of the border, at least in the short term, because Trump's whole idea here is to get automobile manufacturers to return to the United States and have all parts and cars built, assembled, parted, everything in the United States. He's basically trying to kill off the Canadian auto industry as a whole. And he just might succeed, but at the very least, I would suggest that it's going to change the automobile industry as we know it. So let's just think about this for a minute. Yesterday, in response to the tariffs, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney responded to Trump, stating that we would do everything that we can to protect our automobile industry and also make sure that we come out of this stronger than ever. So what does that mean? Well, Mark Carney suggested that he is going to develop a made-in-Canada automobile industry pact of sorts. Now, what this means, I'm not sure. It's interesting, though, because last night when I was reading up about these tariffs, I asked OpenAI a question about it. I said, well, how can Canada actually protect itself, deal with these tariffs from Trump? And they basically came back and said, one of the things that Canada could do would be to create its own automobile industry in-house right here in Canada. Now, that's easier said than done because the major auto manufacturers have no interest in doing anything like that. It's just too cost prohibitive to start up a brand new automobile company. And Canada, quite frankly, just doesn't have a market large enough for the existing auto manufacturers to manufacture cars in Canada specifically for Canadians. There's just not enough of us buying cars that would make that economically feasible. So Mark Carney's idea could involve Canada specializing in a segment of the car manufacturing market. For example, perhaps we capitalize on our mineral and technological expertise and build smart cars or electric cars, next generation technology vehicles, and specialize in that. Much like Mexico is doing with its Olina line of vehicles that's coming out within this next year. They've created a small urban sedan that seats 2 people. It's a small car, totally electric, and it's going to retail for approximately $4,500 US. I mean, it's just an incredible price, but they're really getting in on the ground floor of an untapped market and what could be the future of the automobile industry. So if Canada were to participate in something like that, locally homegrown industry development for our own vehicle, it could be really quite something. This would involve a lot of government involvement and money, as well as private sector investment. It'll be interesting in the days ahead to learn more about Prime Minister Mark Carney's idea here and how it all unfolds. So these tariffs, though, affect more than just the base price of a car, which incidentally is expected to go up between $3,000 and $6,000, even up to $12,000 for some luxury vehicles. Interestingly, only about 16% of cars that are made in Canada or partially made in Canada come back into Canada for the Canadian market. The vast majority of vehicles, over 70% of them, are sold to American customers. And then there's a very small component of the manufacturers that are imported from overseas, Asia and European. So, for example, I drive a Kia Optima. My Kia Optima, it's an older car, it's a 2013, but it was originally built in South Korea and imported into Canada. So it'll be interesting if Canada is able to find a niche where they can fulfill certain models in Canada. A made in Canada vehicle would really be quite something, quite amazing actually when you think about it. But time will tell whether we have the market size and capacity to handle such an expensive venture. But the automotive industry in Ontario especially is really going to have a hard time with this. Depending on how deep Trump wants to go with these tariffs, it could very well have a lasting effect on our automobile industry. Some people are saying that it could actually break the industry. Our government has said time and time again that they will help the manufacturers in Canada and the people, the employees of the automobile manufacturers, to ensure that everybody's looked after and people are able to weather the storm that's coming up ahead. You can help out by liking and sharing this video to your friends and neighbors. Be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep up to date with the latest videos that come out. So what does all this tariff talk actually mean? Well, it means that starting April 3rd, any part of an automobile that's manufactured, including the entire automobile, that's imported into the United States will have a 25% cost charge payable to the U.S. government. This is a critical component because it's going to raise prices for automobiles on the average of about $3,000 all the way up to possibly $12,000 per vehicle for some luxury models. So think about that. On top of everything else rising and the tariffs that are coming out April 3rd across the board, it really is getting more and more expensive to deal with any kind of trade with the United States. And here's what Prime Minister Mark Carney had to say about the U.S. tariffs on the automobile industry.
Latest salvo in his trade war, President Trump again imposed unjustified tariffs on our nation in violation of our existing trade agreements. This time, he targeted the auto industry and the more than 500,000 hardworking, dedicated Canadians that industry supports across our country. We will fight the U.S. tariffs with retaliatory trade actions of our own that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impacts here in Canada. We will protect our workers and our industries during this difficult period. But above all, we will build a new Canadian economy. We will build Canada strong. Last night, the President of the United States reached out to schedule a call. I appreciate this opportunity to discuss how we can protect our workers and build our economies. I will make clear to the President that those interests are best served by cooperation and mutual respect, including of our sovereignty.
Right now, we have an election up here in Canada to determine our next parliament, and we go to the polls April 28th this year. Our current Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is running for the Liberal Party, and Pierre Poilievre is running for the Conservative Party. And if you live in the United States, basically our Liberal Party would be akin to your Democrat Party, and our Conservative Party would be akin to your Conservative Party. If you like these editorial insights, be sure and like and share these videos so that we can expand our channel and get more people involved in the political scene in Canada.